an extra copy. Could I have one? Well, you're in for, I'm Jack Pieho, one of the supervisors.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Thank you.
All right, all set. Call the Exeter Township Planning Commission meeting of May the 19th, 2025 to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Jeff Whitman.
I'm here.
Eric Mouse.
Here.
Darren O'Donnell.
Present.
Les Sosa.
Here.
Jordan Wegman, not present. And Mitch Zimmer.
Here.
This evening's meeting is being live streamed and recorded so that everyone is aware. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for this evening's meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion by Jeff,
I'll second it.
second by Les. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Public comments. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on anything that is not an agenda item? Okay, seeing none. Approval of the meeting minutes from March the 17th, 2025. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at those? Any comments, corrections? Okay, hearing nothing. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from March 17th, 2025?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Eric. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mitch. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion to approve the minutes from April 21st, 2025. Everybody have a chance to look at those? Any corrections, comments? Okay, hearing none. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Jeff,
I'll second
second by Les. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
it.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. New business, Pioneer Crossing RNG facility. We have somebody here to present this evening.
Do you want me to drag them?
You probably should, since we have it live streamed, so folks that are remote can hear.
Can I steal yours? We don't usually do this, but I think it'll.
Test. Can you hear me? Okay.
Do me, huh?
Thank you. My name is Daria Fish, and I work for Archaea Energy as an external affairs representative. I'm here this evening with Nicole Whaley, our engineering project manager, and Nevin Edwards, who's heading up our environmental and permitting for this project. And then additionally, we have Larson Design Group, Brian and Jesse, who I'll let introduce themselves later in this evening. So thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me okay? It seems like it's going in and out. Okay.
No, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. What we'd like to do is just take a few minutes to introduce our company if you're not familiar with it, introduce the project, and then I'll also cover some questions if you have them. So do you have the slide to forward them? Okay. So what we'll cover tonight is just who we are and what we do, Archaea Energy. We'll talk about our proposed project, and we'll talk about safety and then what the next steps would be. So if you're not familiar with our company, we're Archaea Energy. We are the largest renewable natural gas producer in the United States. We use innovative industry-leading processes in a closed-loop system to capture landfill gas and convert it into a low-carbon fuel. We currently operate 50 sites across the U.S. We're in about 32 states. In Pennsylvania, right now, we have 3 locations currently operating, one in Lackawanna County, one in Schuylkill, and one in Northampton. Also, just a noteworthy thing about our company, in 2022, we were purchased by BP, so British Petroleum bought us, and so our BP America headquarters is in Houston, but we have employees across the whole country, from Pennsylvania to Minnesota to Denver to Chicago. So we're located all over throughout the country. Next slide. Basically, just wanted to kind of cover the high-level project basics. So obviously, Pioneer Crossing landfill would be at the landfill that served the county for many decades. What we do is we permit, construct, and operate a renewable natural gas facility at this location. And this proposed project is what we have modeled as a 3,200 SCFM site. And what that means is standard cubic feet per minute. And what that means to the community is that it can actually produce enough natural gas to heat 13,000 homes annually. Any questions so far? I'm kind of just going through these to give you the introduction. Your slide's working, which is good. The PDF is the, yeah. I know. So basically, this is, I kind of call this a wordy slide, but it's the, how the project works. You'll see on your fact sheets, and the next slide I'll kind of go over. It gives you like the step-by-step in a graphic perspective. But basically, we take biogas, which is generated from decomposing organic matter. So at this facility, it will be at the landfill. And then we work with the landfill to capture the naturally occurring emissions, and then we actually convert it to something that's usable for the consumer. So at our RNG plant, so we talk about RNG a lot, renewable natural gas. The landfills contain methane, carbon dioxide, and other inert gases, and we're able to use a multi-step process to purify that to make it go into a natural gas pipeline that can be used for other consumer use. You can go to the next slide, yeah. So this is basically what's on your handout, the second one. It talks about all the different steps in purifying and processing the landfill gas to make it methane to be used for, to be sent into the pipeline. So you'll take from the left, number one, landfill gas. It will go through multiple steps, including taking out H2S, CO2 and VOCs, nitrogen removal, thermal oxidizer. You'll hear our group call it a TOX. So if you ever hear that, that's what they're referring to. The next step is the final oxygen removal, and then you'll have your final compression to go into the pipeline. That's very high level. There's a lot of engineering and technical parts that go behind it, but that's kind of the steps as they are separated out.
What are the volatile organic carbons and compounds, and where are they coming from?
Nevin, do you want to be
Yeah,
join up with me?
There's constituents in the landfill gas that are naturally occurring as the trash breaks down. So that's actually what we target to separate out from the methane component.
Okay,
Sure.
so what was that, ethane, or is it?
There's a handful of them. A lot of it can be site specific. You know, propane, butane, things like that
Okay.
that we target to remove.
And you're just removing them, you're not trying to capture them as liquid LNGs or something?
They do get
Not
they
LNGs,
do get
LPGs.
captured and separated from the process, and they get sent to a thermal oxidizer to efficiently destroy everything. We capture all the
Too little of them to.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
got it.
the presence of these in any basically any landfill gas is very trace amounts. There's not enough heat content there to beneficially reuse those components, so we target everything that we can beneficially reuse.
Okay.
Is that the same for some of the other chemicals or gases like nitrogen? As it's removed, it's captured, so it's not released into the atmosphere?
That's correct, yeah, it's a closed loop system in piping, and then there's various steps that each step will remove nitrogen in one step, oxygen in a different one, the VOCs in yet another different step.
Okay, but it is all captured, not released?
Correct, yeah, captured and then sent to a thermal oxidizer.
Okay.
But what
Well,
comes out of
not the
thermal
nitrogen
oxidizer?
and the nitrogen and the oxygen just go into the air.
They get sent to our thermal oxidizer. Nitrogen's an inert compound, just.
Well,
naturally.
oxygen's already been oxidized.
Right, so
And nitrogen's extremely difficult to oxidize it, and if you oxidize it, it's a poison.
Well, it passes through our thermal oxidizer uncombusted.
Okay, and then it's released to the,
It's released as
okay,
diatomic nitrogen, which is
nitrogen,
air.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
Or 80% of air.
But that's all done at a different facility would not be done at this facility, as far as that process.
If there's nitrogen in the landfill gas at this facility, it will get separated out.
Right, but your thermal oxidizer, that's an off-site process where it gets sent, is that correct?
It is located at our facility.
It is at the
Yeah.
facility, okay, okay.
It's an extremely efficient thermal destruction
Oh,
device.
okay.
Yeah.
I know everybody's question is going to be, what kind of releases are there going to be odor-wise? When you release something on the gas, what kind of odor is it going to be? Is it going to be noticeable?
Our process does not introduce any odors or create any odors.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's.
There are odors going to it, from the
I don't-
H2S, for example.
We have H2S treatment as well.
Okay.
Yeah, that converts if there's H2S present, and should have known the exact levels, but, if there is, our process converts that to elemental sulfur.
So your a Klaus process is built into that?
I'm sorry?
A Klaus reaction is built into that?
We use, an activated carbon material that converts it, and then the spent media is just sulfur-based.
I think the best question is, what is the comparison? So what will we go from to what will we go to? Chemical.
I can't speak for the existing landfill, we don't have a project there yet, but I can say that our process, there's virtually zero detectable H2S at our plant. We treat that up front for many reasons, mechanical, to protect mechanical integrity from a health and safety perspective, and even from at the very end result, the pipelines that the gas is sent to, there's really strict tariffs on what can be the composition of that gas. And so our process eliminates all H2S.
To follow on your question, any H2S coming in, though, just like in the existing process, if there's a leak, that odor is never going away. I mean, that's the inlet, not the outlet. Once it gets into your plant, you're going to destroy it pretty effectively,
That's one
although
of the
you haven't
first-
really convinced me how, but that's a different
That's
story.
one of the first steps in our plants.
So maybe just another question. So at present, I guess the gas is used to fire turbines to generate electricity. Is this proposed system, will that produce less emissions than what is currently being produced by the gas turbines? Or is that an unknown?
I think I can answer that. So the existing gas, I'm Brian Inch, by the way, with the landfill. The existing gas to energy project that the landfill uses for Caterpillar engines that combust the landfill gas directly to turn generators. The gas that's going into the engines now does contain hydrogen sulfide. It contains trace amounts of nitrogen, trace amounts of H2S. It's generally 49% methane, 48% CO2, and the balance is nitrogen and then trace amounts of other things. So it's burned directly, and the emissions coming out of the existing plant are what you would see in an internal combustion engine. There's going to be NOx, there's going to be SOx, there's going to be carbon dioxide, and the new plant that is being considered here does not have any internal combustion other than the tox to destroy any trace leftover impurities in the gas that they don't want in the pipeline. So to answer your question, there'll be less emissions. There really will not be NOx, there won't be SOx. It's a much cleaner project.
Okay, thank you.
Next slide. So I think that kind of follows up with what the discussion was just about. So Basically, we'll start with methane and carbon dioxide, which are captured and processed. The methane is upgraded into the pipeline quality renewable natural gas. And then this process actually captures and beneficially uses over 90% of the methane that would be at the facility. And then the non-methane portions are captured and routed to the control device for disposal. Next slide. Just to touch on safety in terms of our operation, so safety is a core value and one of our highest priorities. We ensure that our operators are trained with the most innovative and rigorous health and safety programs. We also ensure that we're trained on all of the regulatory and environmental policies that are required. We also engage in preventative and maintenance and equipment checks. So we do equipment checks twice a day. And then one other thing that's not on here that just to highlight, we also work with our local emergency responders just to make sure they're aware of what the equipment is and if there's any issues that we can answer any questions for them as well. This is just an aerial perspective. I know our engineering experts will have more information on this. I think they sent you the packet as well, just to show you the location from an aerial perspective. The next slide will give you more of an engineering layout of the proposed project. Just not very clear on that slide there, sorry.
Can you go back to the first of those diagrams?
Yes.
Because we got to see lots and lots and lots of pictures of wetlands. Is that inside that red box or the outside?
Jesse, would you like to take that?
So that wetland delineation was done by the landfill recently enough that we can use it but that was done on the entire property.
Okay, so a lot of that's not inside your red
There
box?
is no,
Okay, that was,
streams or wetlands in our proposed,
that's what I thought, but
Yeah.
I couldn't understand why I was looking at all those pictures.
yeah.
Okay.
Rather than try to separate out that data for this one corner, this is a very large property.
Okay, so that's in the whole property there.
Yeah, do you just want to introduce yourselves as well, in case
Yeah.
there's any more questions? So Jesse and Brian, sorry, kind of turn it around.
I'm Brian Pauling, I'm the director of our energy department at Larson Design Group.
I'm Jesse Nafis. I'm the associate project manager and the lead and ceiling engineer on this project. So we're responsible for all of the land development aspects in and around the plant. Not the direct placement of specific pieces of equipment, but your grading, your erosion protection, erosion and sediment control pieces during construction, and the stormwater design checks, engineering involved to meet the necessary permits regarding that.
So if you go to the next slide, you can see some of those things that he was just referencing.
So in general, this is the corner of the property between Red Lane and Lincoln Road, or on the corner there. This is currently used as a borrow site for the landfill, and there's an existing stormwater basin that is, generally treats that area. It doesn't go off the page, it kind of curls back towards Red Lane. Red Lane is the peak there up in the upper right. Then we have a cut slope near Red Lane there, the bigger curve, flat area for the flat-ish area for the plant. Ring Road, the flare is in the upper left of the plant, and then the driveway for the plant itself is coming off of an existing driveway that is paved off the entrance of Lincoln Road. So we're utilizing that same driveway and then tying in a paved section there, and that will be used for, it's designed for larger vehicles, such as W67s, 62s on this one, but that is not the typical traffic for this. It is mostly personal vehicles for the 3 to 5 employees that would be working on the site. And the parking lot is along that straight stretch of the driveway, and then next to it is the control building. I believe it's 56 by 12-ish feet. So relatively small building, that's the only occupied building, and again, 3 to 5 employees, a single shift, 5 days a week. And that's the general operational layout for the plant, and we're proposing utilizing the existing stormwater basin that is currently there.
So what happens weekends and evenings? I mean, this gas is generated around the clock, right?
There's remote operations available, but there's also on-call. One operator will be on call during a rotation during weekends and evenings. But anything that, I mean, they can do shutdowns from the phone if there's anything critical, and there's also programming that will automatically shut in if there's a critical issue. If there's out-of-spec gas, they'll shut in and flare. Any kind of safety concern, they'll get an alert and can remotely do what's needed, or come out as necessary.
I think that mimics very closely the current process. It's not a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week manned facility also.
Okay.
Okay, just what's next, this would be my last slide here. After you evaluate the proposed project, and if we were to obtain the necessary permits from you all, then it would take about 8 to 12 months to construct, so operations could be expected by the end of 2026. Just kind of giving you a general time frame for that. And that's it for me, so thank you so much for pulling the slides up. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
One question in general, noise, sound from the plant, is it a relatively quiet process?
I mean, the rotating equipment do emit noises. I didn't find any noise ordinance within the county or township. We have multiple all of our plants are outdoor, unenclosed facilities, so to my knowledge, we really haven't had too many noise complaints. But also kind of working with like the natural berm and tree line on Red Lane will provide some mitigation.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions at the moment? Go ahead, Jeff.
How much gas is gonna be stored at that site?
None.
None, so it's automatically transferred from there to the compression site to the pipeline?
Yes, so the pipeline, DTM is building a lateral, that the receipt station will be on.
The what?
The interconnect for the pipeline will be at our site.
Yep.
And then that lateral will, I believe it's 2 miles long, will be constructed to the site to bring it into the transmission line. So we do not store any, it should not be a PSM site. Everything that we produce is injected. It's tested for meeting the gas spec from DTM at site, and so long as that's passing, it's going into the pipeline. If it is kicked out for whatever reason, it'll be flared.
What's flared mean?
It'll be burned at site, so we won't be
So
storing
you have
anything.
an exhaust burn is what you're saying, in the sky?
Well, you won't see, we're gonna be using an enclosed flare, so you won't see a candle at all.
Okay.
And it's only for off-spec gas, so if we have a problem, then it'll need to be flared, but we won't have any storage.
Okay.
And I can add too that the pipeline that it's going to, it ultimately goes to Birdsboro Power.
Yep.
And the point they're connecting to is at the end of Regan Lane in Hampton Township. At the end of that cul-de-sac there is out of the ground infrastructure piping, and that's where they plan on running the line to.
I don't know where that's at, but okay.
A 2-inch steel.
Or Pagoda's building the
steel
region
line.
right now.
It'll be on the south,
Okay.
it'll be on the southwest side of Pagoda, the new Pagoda.
Is there a reason this just doesn't fit where the current operation is? Does it take up that much more room, or what?
It does. There were some challenges with Med-Ed. They have a 69,000 volt line running north and south through the landfill. And it's just trying to do too much on a postage
It
stamp.
wouldn't fit there?
It just really wouldn't fit. And our whole goal is to keep the existing Fortistar plant operational until the day they're ready to fire up the new plant.
Yeah.
So that's why the bar area was a
Okay.
better spot.
Any other questions? If not, Joe, why don't we go ahead and run through your review letter?
Sure. We did review the land development plans prepared by Larson Design Group. Our letter is dated May 14th. We can go, if you choose, I can go through the ones if they have any questions, or if there's certain line items they want to talk about. Under zoning, this is a light industrial zoning district, which is a permitted use. Comment number 2 is just any proposed signage shall meet the applicable zoning ordinance section. Landscaping plan should be considered buffers if necessary. We just discussed a little bit about sound issues. It's something that we may want to consider. Required parking calculation should be provided for the number of employees. Proposed parking aisle width should be labeled. Parking spaces should include dimensions. The light industrial zoning regulations should be provided on the plans with a tabulation chart showing what the proposed zoning would be in comparison to the regulations as they pertain to the light industrial. Plan should include all building setbacks from the property in accordance with section 390-24E, including dimensions, building setback, front yards, and so forth. The applicant shall meet the applicable environmental performance standards as it pertains to section 390-35, including approval from DEP and other outside agencies. Do you have any questions in regards to the zoning? There's no relief necessary. These are just standard comments. Some of these are duplicated in Saldo, so you might see a little bit of an overlap, but our Saldo actually covers some of the same things the zoning ordinance does. Under subdivision and land development ordinance, we submitted the plans as a preliminary plan. The land development plan shall conform to section 330-13C, where the total tract boundaries of all the property being developed should include bearings and distances, total acreage of property, etc. Names of abutting property subdivisions should be noted on the plans with the appropriate plan book page number or instrument number, name of record owner, and address. The plan should include all the required signature spaces for the certificate of approvals. This consists of, for the Planning Commission, for the Board of Supervisors, the signature pages. Also for the Recorder of Deeds for Berks County Planning Commission, they do have regulations to what they need to see. Also for the certifications that are required, this is part of the Saldo. I think it's Appendix 1. I'm not sure which one it is, but there is standard language that needs to be placed on there. Number 6 is more of a repeat of what we already talked about in zoning with regulations. Tree ordinance should be addressed. Cartway widths for Lincoln Road and Red Lane and the approximate grade should be noted on the plans. The applicant should provide color renderings or colored elevations of proposed building. It's my understanding it's not a building, it's more of you're going to have one building and then the rest is just going to be outside? Okay.
Right.
We weren't sure if that was an enclosure or not, so that's why our ordinance typically requires color renderings. If the Planning Commission, this is just going to be an outside equipment, I'm assuming it's going to be enclosed in a fence that's going to be protected. Okay. You don't by chance have a typical photo of one that?
If you go to the first slide of her presentation is.
Yeah, I think it
Okay.
showed it there.
Okay.
That's another site that we have that'll be.
Okay,
the same
okay.
layout.
I just wanted to make sure, because I was a little confused whether or not it was going to be enclosed in the building, but it sounds from your presentation that you're going to have a smaller building that's going to be where your employees will occupy 3 to 5.
There'll be one control room.
Okay.
And then the other buildings that, you might, like the two kind of rectangles at the bottom, those are e-houses.
Okay.
So they're not occupied buildings, they're just holding electrical.
Okay. I don't know if the planning commission feels it's necessary for any color renderings. We were, at the time, was on the assumption that it was going to be enclosed. However, this is going to be strictly outside.
Yeah, so Joe, would we need to recommend a waiver for that?
I don't think it's necessary for a waiver. I think it's really just a directive that it's not
Still
applicable.
gonna have a control room, isn't that?
We could still ask for a diagram. If you have a control room architectural color rendering, that would be nice. We could require where the employees are going to be actually occupying. That's fine. Okay. Any deed restrictions that are applicable should be noted on the plan. Applicant shall secure all applicable permits. A water resource study may be required. Is there going to be on-lot water, or is there going to be bathroom facilities? Since you mentioned there's going to be 3 to 5 employees, will it be public or private?
That was in there.
For the employees only, right?
Okay, so are you looking at, I guess maybe Ryan, is there a well or any, I didn't see any proposed
Municipal.
sewer lines or water lines, so I wasn't sure if this was going to be unmanned or it was, since now it's going to be occupied. Do you have a water well, or is it coming from PA American?
Municipal.
There's public
Okay,
and municipal.
Okay.
Pennsylvania American.
okay.
We're just gonna.
So you're going to need, they own both, by the way. We no longer own the sewer. So Pennsylvania American, you would need to get any approvals from them, as well as showing any connections and so forth. They'll need to review that.
I thought it was storage.
Okay. Area of the proposed building, actually, I would just show the area of the proposed building that we just referenced, which would be the one that to house the employees, since the other is just basically going to be a fenced-in area. Number 14, township should decide if there's any additional right-of-way. They are showing the right-of-way for both Red Lane and Lincoln Road, whether or not the planning commission wants to recommend to the board for any ultimate right-of-way, additional right-of-way for the future. In the past, we have required it. In the past, we also have not acquired it, depending upon any future projects that might be in the process. Best of my knowledge, we don't have anything right now scheduled for Lincoln Road or Red Lane. So it's up to the planning commission. This doesn't necessarily need a waiver. It would be more of a recommendation, and the board can also defer this as well, since it probably will have to come back on the Board of Supervisors for their decision. Statement intended for the use of the plan. Since there's not an existing building, comment number 16, under our ordinance, if you have a building 20,000 square feet or larger, you're required to do a traffic study. There's going to be minimal traffic only for employees. Since this facility is not going to be enclosed, it's not consisting of a building, the only building they're going to have is what's going to house the employees. My opinion is this comment probably is no longer applicable, so we can just disregard that one, since now we have clarification on the size of the building that they're proposing. Any utility easements should be provided. Plans should be recorded once the final plan stage, the Berks County Recorder of Deeds. As I mentioned before, they have certain blocks and signature blocks that need to be followed for them to record the plans once they're approved. Comment number 19 is also in bold. This is township should determine if an improvements agreement and construction cost estimate should be provided at final plan stage. It's understanding that they are going to be utilizing the existing base, and there's going to be minimal public, if any, improvements. That's something that the board can consider waiving. We don't really foresee any type of off-site or township improvements, so it's something that the board may want to consider, just not requiring an improvements agreement. Comment number 20, the Berks County Planning Commission did produce a review letter dated May 13th. We just recommend that those items are addressed. And comment 21, if monuments and lot pins and so forth. anybody has any questions under the subdivision and land development ordinance, comments, review comments?
Are we able to get examples of the stuff you want on the title block?
Yes, you know what? I think what happened, and Jason, I probably should have talked to you about this, I don't think it's uploaded on the township website.
Okay.
I have a copy of the older ordinance, it's the same.
Okay.
It's worded in the ordinance, but they show samples in the appendix. I can send it over to you. It's from our other ordinance, but I noticed just recently, I looked up on, our codification that's online, and that one appendix is not in there, so it's just where it shows the spaces and so forth.
We can correct that. That's.
I can send him, I'll send him tomorrow. I'll copy that and send it over to them.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, real quick, before we move on.
Yes.
Are we needing to get the traffic, we don't need to get.
No.
What about the water study? Since we're not-
If it's gonna be PA American, my opinion is don't necessarily need a water study, because they're not gonna be, it's gonna be public water, they did a geology study and so forth, I don't feel it's necessary for them to do it.
Typically the case if there's not
Yes.
going to be any on-site.
We were assuming if you were gonna have a well, because at the time, we weren't sure if it was gonna be public water. So to answer your question, no, it's not necessary unless the planning commission feels otherwise. I don't feel it's necessary per our ordinance.
The sewage is into a tank and then pumped occasionally, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, that'll be.
Does that
regular
affect
pump out.
anything, or is that?
It's just a pump station,
It's
a typical pump station that just pumps to the public sewer.
We did get, we did have preliminary discussions with that department, and they said that it was possible to get that approved, as part of their requirements. They don't have a moratorium on that process, of that being available.
Okay, but it's a conventional, it would be a regular pump station, sanitary sewage pump station. It's not a holding tank.
No, I got the
Out.
impression it was a holding tank.
It's a 1,200 gallon.
Does the SEO need to review that?
Yeah, so that would be reviewed by our SEO, which is LTL Consultants. So they would need the proper permitting and review and approval from our
So
sewage
if-
enforcement.
Yeah, if it's a holding tank,
Yes.
yes, absolutely.
And then there's an agreement also that would be put on file, and I believe an escrow account also in case they would not maintain it.
Is, just a question on that, is it not possible to put in a pump station?
I'm sorry, I misspoke from doing some
Mm-hmm.
of these other sites. Since the sewer is available, we will connect to the sewer.
We'll coordinate with them to make a direct.
Yeah.
A direct connection to the,
There is public sewers, they
I
can
was
do it.
wondering-
They can do it, that's what I thought too. I thought they were gonna do direct connection, yes.
That's what it said.
sure.
They wouldn't need a holding tank unless they would need a grinder pump of some sort if they had an elevation problem, but it sounds like to me they can make gravity work.
Okay,
Yeah, that would be the only reason if we need to do something to hold it temporarily for a grinder.
Okay,
Right now,
okay.
that'll be finalized with PA American Water.
okay.
okay.
I agree.
Anybody else has any other comments with Saldo? Stormwater, just to give the planning commission a little bit of background, we did have a Zoom conference a while ago, which was helpful because this is a bit of a tricky site. They already have an existing basin. Actually, the existing basin has the capacity not only to handle what it's permitted for, but in addition to what they're proposing for runoff. So there's not going to be any major changes to the stormwater controls. So we did look at this. Ryan had some information that he had from his original permit, so it really did help modeling in the stormwater because it was a bit of a tricky site. So essentially, under stormwater, they'll need to demonstrate and receive erosion and sedimentation control plan and NPDES permit. Comment number 2, it appears their design meets the water quality, stream bank erosion, and water quantity rate control requirements. We recommend the approved post-construction stormwater management plan be submitted to the township in lieu of the required plan, assuming it stays consistent with the final land development plan. The statement signed by the landowner acknowledging any revisions will need to be added to the plan. design engineering certification will need to be provided as well. Comment number 6 is basically recommending that the approved post-construction stormwater plan be accepted as the stormwater control and BMP operation maintenance plan. We typically have required this. We don't feel it's not going to be an issue. The applicant will be required to contribute to our municipal stormwater control BMP operation and maintenance fund. This is the periodic inspections that are required over a 10-year period, year 1, 4, 7, and 10. That amount can be determined at final plan stage. And number 5 is just a small discrepancy that can be ironed out, but we don't have any major issues with the stormwater. I think everything's pretty well in line, and the facility is has the adequate capacity necessary for the anticipated runoff being generated. Anybody has any question with stormwater? The outdoor lighting and fire prevention, accessibility, I can try to answer. Terry Noggle from our office is the gentleman that reviewed this. Steve Hoffman actually reviewed the stormwater, but I debriefed him on our conversation, so he had a background of what we discussed. But if there's any specific issues, I can try to answer this, or if not, I can forward this information to Terry. And Terry does a lot of our code, or assists the township with some of the code enforcement as well. If not, I'll jump ahead to general comments.
So just one bit of clarity on the lighting. There will be a lighting plan developed at some point as the thing gets finalized.
Okay.
It is all down lighting. It will be these 2-year ordinance
Okay.
criteria. The only thing we would want to know about is if there's a restriction for it needing to shut down at a certain time at night. If there's an ordinance.
I don't believe so.
I don't believe we do have that.
No.
And I think with a facility like this, you would want to have lights.
Yeah,
all
I don't think we would require that.
It's helpful for.
Right, and I think we're not against that. I think
Yeah, no.
security-wise. Some businesses do in the township, but I'm pretty sure we do not require that it has to be shut down. I think it can be 24 hours.
There's no homes located near this anyways.
No, it's out, And for security purposes, we'd prefer to have
Yeah, we'd prefer to have.
lighting all night.
It's an industrial
There'll be no trespassing
location.
down lights.
It is.
Okay.
And then as far as the fire prevention, there are 2 existing hydrants out there.
Okay.
We'll adjust the labeling on the plans to make them more clear as to where they are.
Okay. That sounds good.
So, one question I have relative to the operation, basically, the plant would be built, Mascara would not really do anything with the operation of the plant. This is all by your company, by BP. So, just one thing that comes to mind, I don't believe we have any other facility like this in the township.
Best to my knowledge,
Processes,
no.
No.
Gases like this. One thing that just concerns me a little bit is if our fire department is equipped to handle emergency situations at a facility like this. So one question I would have is, does your company provide some type of ongoing training for local emergency services folks to understand what's in the plant, what things they should be aware of, any specialized training that they need, those types of things? And then coupled with that is, do we have the appropriate apparatus to deal with such situations? It's a very specialized thing.
They did provide turning templates for our fire apparatus to demonstrate they can ingress and egress around the site to properly put out a fire.
But if, I'm more thinking if there's specialized equipment for detecting
Certain
gas.
chemicals.
Certain foams, like,
Things like
for,
that.
If there's an emergency event, the plant will shut in, and no one is expected to fight fire at the site. It will, it's only for
Burns out.
personnel protection, or, yeah, the site will burn to the ground before the firefighters if there's any emergency, release or something, the valving and the safety systems will kick in and shut it in. So, we've never had that kind of incident. We'll invite the fire chief or whoever he's interested, closer to, during commissioning or pre-commissioning, tour the facility, get any recommendations for, anything that he wants to see, or, and kind of train him, as Daria said, on our process and how we work together.
Can you explain that a little more? So you don't want emergency responders responding to the site if there is an incident?
There's no expectation that it will be necessary the way the system is designed. Basically, the inlet and outlet of our plant, the valve shut immediately upon detection. So the gas is contained and it'll just burn itself out within the facility. But our safety group, it is part of our standard process no matter where we operate, in what township. We have emergency action reports, emergency response plans, and part of that is engagement with the local, firefighters, ambulance, things like that, so that they are familiar with our site and kind of what kind of equipment is there, so that if something should come up, that they are at least aware of it.
So to put it in perspective, the natural gas lines running through the township are more dangerous than your plant because they're higher pressure. Is that-
We have gas under pressure, but yeah, it's all contained.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's high, the main lines through the town are actually higher pressure.
Probably.
But what I'm hearing is that you do engage the local community, the local EMS, educate them as updates or changes come about
That's correct.
on a regular basis.
And you have like knockbox or the codes. I saw you're self-contained with the gate. How's that work with
I
it?
think we do utilize knockboxes.
Yeah, there's
That's
definitely-
part of our standard rate.
I don't know if it's the same for every site, but there is coordination with the fire department on what, if they have a standard that they want to see, we can implement it, or we'll do whatever is necessary to like, make sure they have access, if needed.
I think it would be probably all emergency services, even police for the
Yeah.
case they would be there, but it sounds like you have that covered.
And also, the way this plant is designed, the landfill is actually pulling a vacuum on the landfill. When I say the landfill, I mean, we have the power plant or the fans and blowers that are pulling a vacuum on the landfill. And then we are discharging the gas to them, and it goes through a flow control valve. So at any time they have an issue, whether it be a function or something happens at their plant where they can't handle the gas, or they don't need the gas, or they don't want the gas, a valve will be shut, going to their plant, and then that gas will then be diverted to the flare at the landfill. So, and it's all automated and it's all coordinated together.
I was going to say, I'm guessing the automatic shut-off and the chemical reaction happens faster than emergency services can get there.
No, I was actually more curious when I asked it. Just if you don't want responders there because you handle it, or they would still respond, but you're basically saying it would be taken care of before they even get there, basically.
Right, yeah.
And in 20 years of running the existing Fortistar plant, we've had no issues with fire, whether it's at the existing blower pulling a vacuum on the landfill or at the Fortistar plant. And that's with 4 engines burning in containers. So there's more likely that, unfortunately, I hate to say it, there's more likely to be a fire at the landfill than at any of these
Yep.
places.
How long do you expect to run this plant?
At least 20 years.
Thank you.
I think is our gas rights for 20 or 30 years?
I don't know.
Minimum 20 years, I can, for sure.
It's got to be at least 2 years.
Ryan, and you guys have 2 torches on the landfill facility. They're gonna remain to both of them.
Correct. So what we have purchased is a new flare, which we will be replacing our old flare at the landfill.
Number 1 or number 2?
Number 1.
Yeah.
And it's a redundancy that if something happens with them, we can fire up this flare. And it's a shame because it'll never be used. It'll just sit there like the old one.
Right.
I'll look at it every day, thinking, why did I have to spend $500,000 on this? And
You test them every so often, like,
we'll exercise it every
Yeah.
month, just give it a bump, 15, 20 minutes, just to get the rust off it. And it'll just pretty much sit there. Hopefully you never have to use it.
right?
Joe, if you want to go ahead with your general comment.
Sure. Nothing major. There are showing bituminous paving, then they have a base rock paving and concrete. Is this base rock paving, is this going to be within the facility itself? Okay. Okay. I don't have an issue with that since we have clarification. Therefore, they're proposing paving, so they're in compliant. If the planning commission's in agreement, now that we know more or less the layout of the plant, that's going to be within the plant itself, within
Yeah, 'cause
that
that's
closed
sort of the
area.
Base rock paving, that's sort of in and around the equipment areas, yeah.
I think we're gonna change the name of the detail from now forward, so the paving word's not in there, because I think it gets, there's a lot of.
Okay.
Yep, okay.
Okay. Then I'm fine with that. That's no longer applicable. And we already talked about with water utility connections for water service and sanitary sewers. They're in the process with coordinating with Pennsylvania American for those approvals. So that's in process. So that concludes my review letter unless anybody has any comments or questions.
Joe, general question, is there any type of landscaping or screening that's required, or is there any?
We are requiring a landscape plan because we do, so it would be for to look at any buffers area. Now, they're not against residential property, so they don't really have to do along the property line because it's not a residential. If it was a different use, yes, they would have to. I think we would recommend for at least sound purposes and so forth and for screenings so that it doesn't stick out.
Yeah, so
For the visual aspect of the use.
I was more asking with respect to Lincoln. The northeast corner look to be about.
It's going to be
25 feet
it's going to be lower because they have a substantial cut. They're going to be coming into that embankment off of Red.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was more asking from the.
From the front might be
side,
more, that would be where I would recommend if we could put some shrubbery in there just to soften it.
I was going to say maybe, yeah, some kind of plantings
Yeah.
on the outside
I
of
don't-
the fence to kind of soften.
Right, I
You don't
think
see a chain link
that would be
fence.
something that the township could.
So currently, the entire frontage of Lincoln Road on both sides of the entrance have like a tight row of trees and then groupings of individual like decorative trees in front of that. They're still like relatively young, but none of that will be disturbed
Okay.
outside of like the utility area that needs to come across. But the idea was, it's very tight.
If that can be preserved, I don't feel there's a need to remove anything if it doesn't have to be removed. I know they usually do have landscaping along the frontage. I'm fine with that. I think if the planning commission, if they're going to keep that landscaping in that area, that would be more natural. It's probably going to be much more mature than something that's going to be planted during construction.
Yeah, that's a buffer there already, and that may have been a buffer that was required on some other.
It probably was. We weren't sure some of that was going to remain. That's why we were a little concerned about landscaping.
At this time, we're not removing any of these
Okay.
sites. There may be one that comes out to get the utility crosswalk.
Okay.
But that even could go back in depending
That-
on where it is. We don't want stuff right above the pipes for roots or otherwise.
I mean, I think our concern would be just screenings, just so that it's,
Any other questions?
Yeah, one of the documents talked about some major blasting. Is that going to be an issue, or has that happened already?
That has not happened, no earthwork related to this facility has happened. It was, the geotechnical report suggested that in certain areas, probably in that deeper cut section, bedrock might be encountered and some bedrock removal process would be needed there.
Blasting's a recommendation.
Right, right.
It's just a recommended way to remove the.
So you don't know how, you haven't gotten that far yet in terms of.
Ryan, probably more a question for you. Down in that area, you have more, it's a lot of red shale that breaks very easily down in that area?
You get about 8 feet down past the weather zone and the topsoil. You start to counter some hard bedrock that you can chip away with drilling your excavator or just drill and shoot 15 feet. So they might want to do that.
But
And
there,
we've done it before at the landfill too.
yeah,
We've shot a couple areas. It's quicker.
right.
And it's pretty simple.
Any other questions? All right, if not,
I have one more.
yep,
So, just to summarize, so the benefits to the community were cleaning up the process, we're sending more energy to more homes. Are there any others?
Reduced emissions.
Reduced emissions? Okay.
It's a different type of energy. Instead of electricity, it's gas.
Yes.
It's gas going into the gas grid that is directly, it's the only thing going to Birdsboro Power is the DTM line that they ran from Ole all the way down in Birdsboro Power. That's the only user of that gas is the power plant. So it'll go right over to Birdsboro Power. And they're much more cleaner, much more efficient with that setup than those 4 engines are. So, yeah, it'll be definitely cleaner.
Thank you.
Are we required to do anything now?
so I guess at this point, I mean, there's some things that have to be cleaned up on the plan, some things added. Just looking through this, Joe, I guess we could do a recommendation to waive the water resource study. That waiver.
Because they are
But do we have an actual request for waiver at this point, or should we get a written request?
We didn't get a written request.
We didn't. There hasn't been they did not supply it.
Okay, so.
What they could do is, when the planning commission is in a position to recommend preliminary plan to the board, my recommendation would be then to have it in writing so that action can be taken by the Board of Supervisors for both the preliminary plan and their waiver requests.
Mm-hmm.
The traffic wouldn't be applicable since they're,
Right.
doesn't apply.
Okay.
Was the water study applicable as well?
Water resource study?
Yeah, that wouldn't be applicable as well, because there's
I don't
just,
believe they need that.
It doesn't, they're using public water. There is a criteria with impervious coverage. If you put 85% of your site in paving, you still need to do a study, whether it's public or private. They don't meet that criteria.
Nowhere
So since they're going public, they would need to do a study.
we would not need to do.
No, if they were proposing 85% impervious and going public, yes, they still would need to do
That's
the
what I'm saying.
study.
So they
Yeah.
would, that
So
would.
you're
that
correct.
wouldn't be required either.
Actually, you know what?
We have to do.
Jeff actually just, I think, answered our question. They don't apply to the study because they're doing public water. The other criteria is, I believe you have to have 85% of the site under
think it's 80,
paving.
but,
80.
yeah, they're still nowhere
So they're
near
still nowhere near that. And since those two conditions aren't met, therefore, there isn't a need for a study. Because we're not, they would need a
Therefore, no
waiver if
need
we
for
were
a waiver.
requiring a study, but we're not requiring a study because they meet the exemption, I'll call it the exemption
Right.
criteria.
So no need for a waiver.
Right,
correct?
yeah,
they-
yes,
they
I
don't
agree, no action needs to be
Trying to
taken.
make it easier, Joe.
No, I agree with you, I'm not disagreeing with you, I just wanted to make sure we're covered.
So I guess the other thing I see here is the comment on the ultimate right-of-way for along Lincoln Road and Red Lane.
The board, that doesn't necessarily need a waiver, but the board can make a recommendation to the board if they feel that ultimate right-of-way should be considered, or if they wanted to recommend to the board, not necessary. I think that usually falls on the board more because of the because there are improvements, there are capital improvements along the roads. In other situations, we haven't required it. Usually in a commercial area, we will when we know we're going to be doing some widening and turning lanes. Like along 422, for instance, we required it. In a situation like this, we have no plans for Lincoln Road at this time. So if the planning commission feels comfortable, we can just make a recommendation to the board not to consider the acquisition of any additional right-of-way. In my opinion, it would be more of a motion, not a waiver, because it's not necessarily required.
I mean, Lincoln Road, we consider that arterial in the township.
I believe that's a collector,
Collector.
yes, because it does connect to 345 and to 422. So it is a collector. I'm not sure what the ADT is. If it is an arterial, it's considered minor, but I would believe it's more of a collector, but we can double check that. We do have classifications for our streets throughout the township.
I think we should know what that is before we make a decision.
Joe, you don't happen to remember if we waived it for total recycle?
That's a good question. I have to
Before
double
my
check
time,
that.
I'm not
Yeah, me
sure.
too, yeah.
I think we did waive it across the
Don't
street.
remember.
I
It's a
bel
long time ago.
It is a long time ago. I don't think we required ultimate right-of-way in that area. I could be wrong, but I can double check. That was a while ago. I mean, it was under my time, but I don't think we did require it.
I think we should probably try to review that and just.
We could look at it. Now, the planning commission doesn't really need to take any action. I think it's going to be more of a board's decision, but I can look into what that street is classified and provide some clarification at the next planning commission when the
That'd be helpful.
plans are presented. Okay.
Can I just ask one more general question? I noticed the existing driveway that's there for Mascaro has the gated, that's gated as well because presumably the stockpile. Does that stay where you essentially have two gates to the property in the future?
That gate will stay, and then once you're inside that gate, they'll have a driveway going into there.
With the gated, sliding gate to get into your facility then as well?
All right. If there's no other questions, then just get some of the items listed here, get things cleaned up on the plans, and as soon as you're ready, come back in and see us.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay. That was the last item on the agenda. Does anybody have anything else from the planning commission for this evening?
Yes, I'd like to update everybody on the joint comprehensive plan. Now, the joint comprehensive meeting didn't have a meeting this past month, and they are really ready to release the document to us for review. So we're not gonna have a meeting in June or July. They're supposed to get us the draft by sometime in June. They haven't given me a deadline yet. But once that's done, I would like to hand it off to anybody in the planning commission that would like to have it.
So this is the draft of the comprehensive plan?
Yes. And then I would need each one of you, if you would like to do it, to read it, and anywhere you make a change, put a Post-it. I don't want to have to read 12 copies. So if you just put a Post-it where you want to change, that way I can go through it and give one set to Berks County, because they're the ones doing it.
Okay.
So if anybody does not want to do it, let me know, so that we don't have to make the extra copies. Same way goes for the Board of Supervisors, by the way, Jack. We're going to be getting that next month sometime, so I'll need to know how many.
So you'll hand it to us at next month's meeting?
Excuse me?
You'll hand it to us at next month's meeting?
If it's there, yeah.
If it's there.
They haven't given me a definite date yet. We're going to at least see it this time.
You wanted, Jeff, you want it on the agenda for our Tuesday meeting?
Yes, please. Just to know who wants to be involved. I mean, Michelle is on there, so she's the one that should, but she didn't show the meeting, so.
I'll be out of town for that meeting, so if you want it on that agenda, Jeff, you're gonna have to plan on attending.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. All right.
I didn't put anything else on the agenda, and I won't be in town. So, like I said, if Jeff's willing to come in, then I would just do that.
Want to get a hold of Tina tomorrow to make sure it gets on the agenda?
Yeah, well, I'll put it on staff meeting.
Okay, good.
So thank you all.
Okay, thanks, Jeff.
Drop me an email if you really want, if you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, let me know so we don't make the extra copies. I want to be paper efficient.
Anything else from members? Engineer, anything to report?
No, I don't have anything more to report.
How about from staff?
No, really,
Jason?
it's been a little quiet, nothing you guys aren't aware of.
Okay. I have one question. Any more communication from on the land development plan that was submitted for the property on Perkiomen Avenue, where the Domino's Pizza is?
They applied and received a 6-month time extension.
Okay,
So nothing yet, nothing back from them, except I asked for a time extension because the plan was going to expire.
okay,
So
Board granted at
Yeah.
the last meeting last.
they're good until December.
okay.
So nothing yet.
My understanding, I think they're working out with PennDOT, their HOP. We did get notification, we believe it was their site, 'cause it's the only one that I think we have that has, currently is trying to acquire a PennDOT permit.
Okay.
So that's the latest we've heard. We haven't heard anything back since then.
Okay. And the second question I had was, any updates on the Promenade property situation there?
Nothing.
Nothing? Quiet?
Quiet.
Okay.
I've asked and I've been told we're working on it, things are moving, we'll be in touch.
Okay,
So,
very good.
nothing.
If nobody has anything else, motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Motion by Les, second by Jeff. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
I gave hi earlier. They kept pushing me back for the tour.
So I was on the phone with my friend from high school because he